At the end, everyone quietly walked to their rooms. Pardon me, Sana-san. Am I interrupting? I've brought you some tea.
ああ、雪村くんですか。どうぞ入ってください。
After noticing Sanan-san's lack of participation, I visited Sanan-san with tea, hoping to cheer his wavering spirits. Lines of worry wrinkled his pale face, and we shared no words as he blew the steam rising from his cup. By the time Sanan-san decided to open up, the tea had become lukewarm, and I felt indifferent about drinking it out of courtesy.
雪村くん、君がわざわざ訪ねてきてくれたのは先ほどの一件についてですね。
I did. I know that it's none of my business, but I've been worried about you.
私はね、度重なる血の衝動に繰り返し苦しめられている今でも羅刹になったことを後悔していません。日の光の下で生きられぬ体となり果てても新選組のために戦える体を得たのですから。人に戻れるならば戻りたいという気持ちももちろんありますが、だから私はこの羅刹となった自分に誇りさえ持っています。
Which explains your resoluteness earlier. The thrust of Sanan-san's despondence came from his ill-fated injury to his left arm, which would be enough to crush the spirits of any warrior. Then came the introduction of Kashitaro Ito, whose promotion to deputy commander cost Sanan-san his position and influence within the Shinsengumi. Only by consuming the water of life had Sanan-san regained his strength, physically and emotionally, to pick back up his life's shattered pieces. However, he was now back to square one, having his skill and character deemed unfit to serve in battle. A vein bulged in Sanan-san's forehead as he balled his hands into tight fists.
私は羅刹。羅刹は私。その羅刹を否定されてしまえば、私にもはや存在意義などない。
Sanan-san cast his downtrodden words and looked away. I wanted to comfort him, to tell him that he was worth everything and more to me, but I could not, despite my best wishes. Sanan-san hadn't been looking for words of affirmation or assurances. He merely needed an outlet. And so I listened, hoping that by letting him bare his soul, he could lighten the pressure on himself.
今の羅刹では出撃することができないというなら、あとは羅刹の改良を重ねるほかありません。行動さんの新型をも超える一切の弱点がない完成した羅刹。羅刹でありながら人間に近い存在。そう、羅刹の力を持ちながら人間に戻れるような改良が必要です。そうすれば土方君も考え直さざるを得ないでしょう。
Sanan-san's tone of voice crescendoed, and he allowed himself to indulge in the excitement of this prospect. I held my tongue as the bittersweet moment unfolded.
ですが、ここまで研究しても決定的な成果は上げられなかったのも事実。何か鍵となるものがなければ、それも夢のまた夢なのでしょうね。
I gazed at him fondly and decided to say, "Here's my blood." I hoped that somehow I could channel the frustration from his despair to something meaningful, even if it were just a temporary reprieve. reprieve. I spoke up, almost to the point of blurting out, "Would a demon's blood help?" I recall you expressing interest in me when it was revealed to me that I am a demon. Sure, both Furies and demons possess healing abilities, but I have no problem under sunlight. Maybe you could use a demon's, my blood, for research purposes, of course.
確かにそう考えていた時もありました。いえ、正直に話せば今もそうなのかもしれません。
Yeah, when you almost fucking brought down your sword onto me. Yeah, I remember that.
ですが雪村君、君は自分が何を言っているのか分かっているんですか？研究を続けるため、あなたはこの先ずっと血を提供しなければならなくなります。その結果、成功しても血が必要となり、失敗してもさらなる研究に血が必要になります。それでもなお君は私の実験のためにその身を捧げようというのですか？
If I can somehow ease your pain and frustration, then yes, I'm fully ready to cooperate with your research. Anything you want, Sanan-san. My body is yours as long as you will it.
あなたは
I asked myself if I were overcome with pity. Was this an olive branch? A hope of appeasing a troubled mind on the verge of impulsion? Implosion? I snuffed out the thought almost immediately. Sanan-san was vulnerable, enduring a state of constant vigilance in regards to his actions and his bloodlust. Yet he shared a cordial, inviting smile with me daily. And back in Toba Fushimi, he risked his life protecting me against Father and Kauru's aggressive attacks. How much more could a gentle heart suffer before it turned to dust? At the very least, I want to bear some of that burden alongside Sanan-san. It was what attracted or endeared me to him. These thoughts formed a constellation of high esteem as I stared longingly into Sanan-san's eyes. He gazed at me coolly, tracing an invisible line from my wrist up to my face. Sanan-san was an enigmatic, perceptive figure. When his eyes first became a shade of bright crimson, I was consumed with unspeakable fear. Years later, here I stood, offering my body on a silver platter for his use, the thought of which enticed me. Please, Sanan-san, don't give up on yourself, or let the weight of the world crush you. You're worth so much to me. Eventually, Sanan-san let out a tired sigh, as if he were clearing his throat of his anxious thoughts.
あなたの気持ちは受け取りました。ありがとう、雪村君。
Sanan-san muttered softly before shaking his head in trepidation.
しかし現在は新選組として羅刹の研究も止められている状況です。とりあえず今は土方君の誤解を解く道を探ることにしましょう。
Sanan-san pursed his lips, taking his teacup and gulping it in one sip. After he placed it down, I grabbed the cup and stood to begin my exit. Well, I suppose I'll be leaving now. Please have a pleasant evening, Sanan. Just as I had turned my head over my shoulders towards his bedroom door. Time for round 2! I heard a breathing grunt escape Sanan-san's lips, and then the startling thought of his body collapsing to the floor. Oh my. Oh my? Really? Was this another episode of Bloodlust? I must, and say it with me now, give him blood. I had no second to spare in hesitation. My hand gripped the hilt of my kodachi, and I winced as I felt the sharp string of the blade against my wrist. I bit my lip in discomfort, despite realizing that this pain paled in comparison to Sanan-san's. Sanan-san, here, take a sip. He slithered tensely over to my bleeding arm. Slithered, specifically the word slither. A much more fitting. It's fitting for Sanan-san. He's just a snake. It's what I've always seen him as, so it's fine. He slithered tensely over to my bleeding arm, wrapping his lips sensuously around the cut. The vigor of his slurping filled the room with its sound. Yeah, slither. Just slither. I felt a dull pressure from his eager sucking, followed by a tickle that made my body shiver. As I took in deep breaths, Sanan-san softly whispered,
すみません、雪村君。君の目の前だというのに。
No, I'm glad that I was able to be here when it happened. Sanan-san, you don't have to suffer all of this torture alone.
まったく君は。そんな言葉は不用意に言うものではありませんよ。甘えたくなってしまいますから。
Wow, it just cut again. That's surprising. Sanan is a snake. He's a snake for way too many fucking reasons. It just fits him. He was given an animal. He was given a pet. It'd be a snake. Sanan-san's condition, it seemed, was minute in scale. Regardless of their preparedness, war with the Imperial Army was steadily approaching, and the Shinsengumi was scrambling to meet their foe. Kondo-san and Hijikata-san each conducted recruitment within taverns and merchant centers throughout all of Edo to bolster their rapidly thinning ranks. Sanan-san, on the other hand, sat idly by in the compounds, seizing the opportunity to convince Hijikata-san of the Fury Corps' usefulness whenever the latter returned. On a temperate, modest spring morning, I had been sweeping leaves scattered along the floor within the hallway when Sanan-san was pleading with Hijikata-san.
土方君、こちらの羅刹隊を出撃させるかどうかはともかくとして、敵方の羅刹が脅威となるのは事実です。ですから一つ提案なのですが、光道さんと接触してはどうでしょうか。
ちょっと待ってくれ。光道さんと話をするってことか。今は敵なんだぞ。
それは分かっています。ですが鳥羽伏見の際に協力を持ちかけられました。おそらく交渉の余地はあります。彼の研究成果が手に入れば、羅刹のさらなる強化、もしくは羅刹を救う方法さえわかるかもしれません。
敵方に潜り込んでその情報を手に入れようってことか。
話が早くて助かります。
鳥羽伏見での話は俺も聞いた。そうそう話に乗ってくれる相手とは思えねえがな。
それは交渉次第でしょう。うまく折り合いをつけられれば。
あんたの言いたいことはわかる。だが先日の戦で敵の羅刹兵がうちの大使を何人殺したと思ってる。 び出したのは間違いなく行動さんだ。俺が許可を出したところでそんな話に納得してくれるやつはいねえよ。
Sanan-san ain't happy. Hijikata-san stormed away flippantly, and Sanan-san eyed his back with gritted teeth. I hovered behind Sanan-san nervously, hesitant to speak my piece as he seethed in front of me. Sanan-san.
ああ、お見苦しい姿を見られてしまいましたね。
That's quite alright. I'm just curious. Had you seriously intended on reaching out to my father?
聞いていたんですか。協力でも本気でもありませんから安心してください。
I smiled warmly, but on the inside I was keenly aware of how pertinent furthering research on the Furies was to Sanan-san. His perseverance showed no signs of faltering, even in the opposing face of Hijikata-san's ardent disapproval, a fact I found rather admirable. Ugh. In fact, it wasn't unbecoming at all. Sanan-san was regaining purpose and was intent on showing it. But father was the root cause of our recent struggles. To that end, I could empathize with Hijikata-san's point, especially when innocent lives were at stake.
羅刹として戦うことも研究も取り上げられ、ただ発作に苦しむ日々を過ごす毎日。そして土方君は私の行動に不信感を抱き始めている。本当に居場所がなくなってしまいましたね。
Damn. That's not how it is at all. I'm sure it's all just a big misunderstanding with Hijikata-san.
君は本当に優しいですね。ですが同情する必要はありませんよ。許可がいただけないならいただけないなりに行動をするしかありません。待っているだけの時間がもったいないですからね。